Welcome. So in this video, we're going to be talking about semicircles. And we're going to see how we can get a semicircle from a center radius form of a circle. So it says, we're going to rearrange to make y the subject for this right here. So let's do that. Let's begin by just writing down x squared plus y squared is equal to 9. Now, if I'm making y the subject, that means I want to get y by itself. So I'm going to subtract x squared to get rid of it from this side. So I'm going to subtract x squared from both sides. That's going to leave me with y squared is equal to 9 minus x squared. Now I want y by itself, so I need to get rid of this square. So that means I'm going to square root both sides. Now this is where we need to be careful. Remember, when you're square rooting, you have to take the plus or minus of it. So it's going to be plus or minus the square root of 9 minus x squared. Because we've got a plus or minus, that means we've got both. Now if I draw this out nicely here, y is equal to positive the square root of 9 minus x squared, and also y is equal to negative the square root of 9 minus x squared. Now this is where semicircles are going to come into play. When you have y is equal to positive a square root, that corresponds to the top half of the circle. So there is our semicircle right there. When we have y is equal to negative the square root, that's when we have the bottom half of our circle. This is where semicircles come from. Now, this is when we rearrange to make y the subject. What if we were to come down here and instead rearrange to make x the subject? What exactly would happen there? Well, let's do it. We're going to rearrange to make x the subject for this right here. So that means I'm going to end up with, well, let me begin by just writing out what I have. X squared plus y squared is equal to 9. And now if I want to make x the subject, whoops, if this works for me, that means I want to get x by itself. So that means I'm going to subtract y squared from both sides. And then I'm going to square root both sides, which means I'm going to get plus or minus the square root of 9 minus y squared. And now, as you can see, it's the same thing again. I'm going to end up with x is equal to plus, or positive, the square root of 9 minus y squared. And also x is equal to negative the square root of 9 minus y squared. Now, when this is happening, when you have x is equal to a positive square root, that corresponds to this part of the circle, so the right side of the circle. And when you have x is equal to negative a square root, that corresponds to the left side of the circle. So depending on what you're making the subject, the positive and negative parts of the semicircle are different. So are you getting the top or the bottom or the left or right? So you just need to be aware of how that's working there. Perfect. Let's now move on to just sketching some examples here. So we're going to sketch the following. Let's see how we go. So it says, sketch this. Well, I immediately look at this 4, and I can tell you that this is telling me that the radius is going to be equal to 2. Its y is equal to positive the square root. So that's the top half of the semicircle. This is going to be negative 2, 2, and 2. And I got that because the radius is 2. We then go on to my next one here. I immediately look at this 36, and this is telling me that the radius is going to be equal to the square root of 36, which is just 6. And now we have to take note of the fact that we have, wait for it, a negative in front. Now, because this y is equal to, I know it's either the top or bottom half, and because there's a negative, I know it's going to be the bottom half. Try to make your semicircles look better than mine. There we go. So this is going to be negative 6, and 6. Let's keep on going here. Here, what we're immediately going to take note of is that its x is equal to. So it's going to be either left or right. We look at this number here. This is telling me what the radius is. So the square root of 81 is equal to 9. And because it's positive here, that means I'm dealing with the right-hand side of my semicircle. So this is going to be 9, negative 9. And actually, let's see if I can do that a bit better, because that's not very good. This should be 9, negative 9, and 9 there. Perfect. And then over here, again, I have x is equal to, so I know I'm dealing with left or right. And this time I've got a negative here, so it's going to be the left-hand side. I look here, this is telling me what my radius is going to be. My radius is going to be 7. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to draw this. This is going to be -7, +7, and that will also be -7. Perfect. And that is how we think about semicircles. Hopefully you found this understandable. We've got one more part of this lesson where we're going to fully sketch out a semicircle, but hopefully everything there is crystal clear about how semicircles come about. Semicircles are important for you to understand and, to understand where they've come from. So hopefully all that made sense, and I'll see you in the next part.